What's up, Burned In teachers? Welcome to episode 13 of the Burned In Teacher Podcast. I'm Amber Harper, your host, and this is one part burnout and all other parts action, inspiration, and support for teachers dealing with burnout. In the spirit of thanks, because here in the United States, we are going to be celebrating Thanksgiving on Thursday, I have been so extremely grateful for the opportunities to serve you hard over the last few months. Therefore, as I've been reflecting and re-listening to episodes and really thinking hard about where I want to go with you in 2019, I've decided that I want to go back to episode 4 and help those of you who may not have heard it to understand what it is that burned in means. If you didn't already know, Burned In is actually an acronym. And in this episode where I went solo back in September, I explained to you the entire Burned In process. And another reason that I decided to go solo today and reflect on this episode is because there are some big things happening in Burned In Teacher. Number one, I am in the thick of the very first Burned In Teacher small group program. It's an 8-week program going through the entire Burned In process with multiple teachers each tackling and taking action against the struggles that they are having within their own teaching life. And let me tell you, the results I am seeing have been transformational. Because of the successes that the teachers and I have seen, I know that that is a sign that I need to open it up again, soon, and to even more teachers. So here's what you're going to see happen within Burned In Teacher over the next couple of months. Number one, starting November 26th through the 30th, within Burned In Teacher's private Facebook group. By the way, you can join the group anytime at www.facebook.com/groups/burnedinteacher. Within that private group, starting November 26th, I'm going to go live every day, and we're going to do what I'm calling the Burn On Challenge. Although I don't really feel like it's a challenge, for lack of a better term, it's basically just me going live every day and going through a little mini small group of sorts within 5 days in the group. Now, if you noticed, I call it the Burn On Challenge, which means that it's a little shortened, okay? So B will still be begin where you are. U, understand you. R, reflect on your challenges. N, nurture your strengths. But then Friday, I'll be combining O and N, open up your possibilities and never settle. What I'm really excited about with this challenge is getting people in the Facebook community interacting, talking, sharing, collaborating, which is the point of the entire community in the first place. After the challenge is finished on November 30th, I will be opening the doors to the second Burned In Teacher small group program that will start on January 7th. There will definitely be more details to come. There will definitely be some special offers if you are in the Facebook group and are active during the challenge. It is seriously going to be a party in the Burned In Teacher Facebook group. So if you are not a member yet, please jump on over to facebook.com/groups/burnedinteacher and request to join as soon as possible. It's going to be amazing. The third exciting thing that's happening is that December 6th in the evening, somewhere close to Fort Wayne, Indiana, the actual venue has not been decided on yet. We are going to have a Burned In Teacher live event. And I am telling you, this 3 to 4 hours that we're going to spend together for free is going to help you to have your best 2019 possible. The purpose of the event is not just for me to get to meet these beautiful and wonderful faces that I get to see in the Facebook group and throughout the community, but it's also to get ready to take some serious action and get ready to have the best 2019 possible. So I'm going to ask people to bring poster board, Sharpies, sticky notes, planners. We are going to get so busy planning out this amazing 2019. You are going to leave energized and excited for the very next day to happen. Not to mention that I do plan on holding this venue, hopefully somewhere we can have some great food and great drinks and great entertainment in the process. And lastly, January 7th is the main event when the second small group program for Burned In Teacher actually begins. And there, of course, is way more information to come about that very soon. Whew, with all of those things that are coming up, I am just so excited. It's literally hard for me to sleep at night. But now it's time for me to live in the present by going to the past and revisiting episode 4 of the Burned In Teacher podcast. What does burned in even mean? I'll catch you on the other side of the episode for some tips and takeaways. Welcome to the Burned In Teacher podcast. I'm Amber Harper, and the educators on this podcast are brave enough to share their stories of burnout with the world. On BIT, we get real, we get honest, and we take action. Action against the burnout with stories from burned out teachers, advice from experts, and actionable steps you can take today to beat the burnout and become a happier, more fulfilled human being. Let's get started. Hey, Burned In Teachers, welcome to the Burned In Teacher podcast. One part burnout and all other parts action, inspiration, and support for teachers dealing with burnout. Today is the final episode in this 5-day launch series of the Burned In Teacher podcast. And I have to tell you, I have been dreaming of doing this for years, and it's literally been a dream come true. So if you've listened to all 5 episodes, including today, thank you so much. If you'd enjoyed any of these 5 episodes that you've listened to, and they have encouraged you to make changes, take action, or to inspire somebody else, please consider leaving a review and giving me a 5-star rating. It makes it easier for other teachers in the future to be able to find the Burned In Teacher podcast. So today is all about how do I get burned in? What does burned in even mean? I've had a lot of people ask me that question, and I've written some blog posts about it, and I will definitely link those into the show notes on the Burned In Teacher website. But burned in is actually an acronym, and it didn't start out that way. But one day I was driving on my way to work, and I thought to myself, what if burned in was an acronym? What if it stood for steps that teachers could take to actually start taking control? So that's what it did. It turned into burned in, standing for 8 steps to get yourself from burnout to burn in. So I'm going to explain in this episode today what those steps actually mean. Before I do that, though, I want to introduce you to the Burned In Teacher method, 8 steps to take control and beat burnout starting now. It's an action guide that I created, a free action guide to better student behavior, better relationships with families and administrators, and better time management. In this guide, I actually go through the 8 steps of the Burned In method and sort of mix it up with strategies that you can use to build better relationships with your people, as I call them. You choose who it is that you want to use these strategies on. It could even be yourself. And you work through these rocks, pebbles, and sand. And if you've never heard of that theory of priorities, then I strongly suggest that you jump on over to www.burnedinteacher.com, scroll down a little bit when you get to the homepage, and sign up to receive this free action guide today. You'll also be signed up to receive monthly newsletters, as well as updates and little tidbits that are going to start coming into your mailbox within the next few weeks. Get it? Tidbit, like Burned In Teacher? I thought it was cute. Anyway, so back to the acronym of Burned In. So let's start with B. B is all about begin where you are, really assessing your current reality and where it is that you are either physically, emotionally, mentally. It's really just evaluating your current situation. The next letter is U. U stands for understand. It could be a couple of things. It could be understand you, understand your administrator, understand why you're so sad. R stands for reflect on your challenges. What's holding you back from being your best self, your best teacher, your best parent, your best spouse? What are the biggest challenges that you are finding in holding you back from taking your next best step? The next step in Burned In is N, nurture your strengths. We all have them. Some of them have been hidden and had clutter put on top of them over the last few years, but we all have strengths. It took me a long time to find that my strengths were actually masked as problems. They got me in trouble a lot, speaking up, bringing up issues that I felt needed to be solved, trying to take action. Those things led me to Burned In Teacher because I realized that those are my biggest strengths and I need to do what I can to get those out there in the world. So find your strengths. Think of what you used to be really good at. How can you be good at that thing again? Next is E. Extend your reach. This is one of my favorites. Extending your reach is actually taking that action by asking how, or asking why, or asking when. It's reaching out to your people, anybody that you think can help you. For you listening to this podcast, if you haven't joined our Facebook group with over 100, now 130 educators, come to us and extend your reach there if you don't feel like you can extend it to anybody else. Next is D, determine your goals. This is where after you've gone through evaluating where you are and understanding yourself and realizing your challenges and then your strengths and starting to ask questions to people and voice your struggles, this is where you're saying, okay, this is my goal. This is what I want for myself. This is what I want for my students. This is what I want out of my career. This is what I need in my life. And then you go for it. Now you're really going to initiate change. That's what I stands for, initiate. This is where you take serious action to reach those goals that you've determined for yourself. This is such an exciting time in the entire method because this is where you begin to see tiny steps of progress towards your goals. And this is where you really start to see change happen. The last one is N. N stands for never settle. And I actually like to say never, ever, ever, ever settle. Don't ever settle for going back to that place that you were in. And if you do, start the method all over again. These 8 steps are things that I went through without even realizing it to pull myself out of the burnout, realize my full potential, and take action in helping other people to reach theirs. Listen, I'm not a therapist. I can't diagnose things, and I certainly can't prescribe things, but I know what burnout looks like. I know what it feels like. I know what it sounds like. And I never, ever want anyone to feel the way that I felt for years when I allowed myself to be victimized by my current reality. It's time for you to say enough is enough. It's time for you to take action. It's time for you to burn in. If you've been a reader of the Burned In Teacher blog for the last couple of years, you may notice a couple of fluid changes that are going to happen within the site, starting actually this week. Each Monday, whenever there is a new podcast, a new interview, a new guest, or if there's a topic that I'm discussing solo like I am today, you're going to notice that there is going to be a blog post about that topic, something that I pull from the interview that I want to share with you in more detail in a written post. Also, if you're a member of the Burned In Teacher Facebook group, we will be discussing that topic, that idea, those key takeaways and tips that came from that interview that week will be discussed within the group every Wednesday at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time in Burned In Teacher Live, or BIT Live. It used to be Live for 5, but then I realized there wasn't really a way to have a deep discussion within 5 minutes. I promise, though, it will never be longer than 15. This is a time for you to post your comments, questions, get engaged with the other members, and really start to get into the Burned In Teacher mindset. I hope to see you in there as soon as possible. But don't wait until Wednesdays to post comments and questions about the topic. If you had a big win during the week at school or something happened that threw a curveball into your burned in mindset, come into the group and post a question. Vent to us. And make sure that you also ask for solutions. I also wrote a post once about how there's a difference between asking for a shoulder to cry on and asking for a solution to your problem. Make sure that you come into the Burned In Teacher group with an attitude of seeking solutions, seeking support, and taking action. All right, Burned In teachers, that's all I have for you today. I hope you now have a better understanding of what Burned In Teacher stands for, how you can get burned in, and how you can actually extend your reach into our Facebook group and community. As always, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for giving a rating and a review. And most of all, thank you so much for taking steps to become a Burned In teacher. So especially if you are new to the Burned In Teacher podcast and Burned In Teacher in general, you have a better understanding of what it is that Burned In Teacher's mission is. And now you know, if you do decide to join the small group program in January, what's in store for you. If you have any more questions at all about Burned In Teacher's mission or the Burned In Teacher 8-step process, please email me at burnedinteacher@gmail.com anytime or post a question in the Facebook group. The main takeaway I want you to take from today's flashback to September and what Burned In Teacher even means is that everybody's journey is going to be different. Everybody's struggling with something different. And nobody's struggle is more important or easier than anyone else's. They're all extremely important. They all need attention, and everybody deserves the right to solve those struggles in their own way. What Burned In Teacher offers is the headspace, the time, and the community to do what you need to do to be the happiest and most fulfilled human possible. And that's part of Burned In Teacher's mission. So if you're here, that means there is something that you're trying to figure out in your teaching or your personal life. And you are finding that support here somewhere within Burned In Teacher. So I encourage you to do 3 things after you shut this episode down for today. Number 1, join the Facebook group if you haven't already. Number 2, if you haven't downloaded your free Burned In Teacher action guide, go to burnedinteacher.com and do it right away. It has many different ideas and people that you can use the Burned In process with to build better relationships and therefore create a happier workplace for you. And finally, number 3, don't forget to take part in our Burn On Challenge taking place November 26th through the 30th within the private Facebook group. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to do anything. Just show up and be active in the group. After all, being active and taking action is the only way you're going to solve this burnout. And that's all I have for you today. Happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy time with your friends and family. And I will see you next week for another episode of the Burned In Teacher podcast. That's it for this week's episode of the Burned In Teacher podcast. Until next week, take a deep breath. You are your own hero, and you just took another step to becoming a Burned In teacher. Burn on. If you want to be updated on the latest Burned In Teacher podcast episodes, don't forget to subscribe to the Burned In Teacher podcast on Google Play or iTunes. Also, please consider leaving a review and leave a rating so that other teachers who are feeling the burnout can find this podcast to help them feel supported as they continue their journey out of burnout. Thanks so much.